massive game at Old Trafford this weekend, tomorrow night, 5:30. Big game in terms of the top four race. When you're looking at Man United, where do you think their frailties lie at the moment? Because they're very, very hit and miss at the moment. More miss than hit. They've
got a lot of frailties, Man United, but it's all about whether you can keep the quality quiet as well. I think actually against Man City, everyone was clowning on them for their performance. I actually think in the first half, they played very well. And I know they were 2-1 down from some really poor defending. But I think actually they pressed really well. City were actually struggling to deal with it at times in the first half. It was, they got the goal, and it wasn't just the goal that they were troubling City with. They had a few other really promising moments where they didn't take advantage of. I think McTominay and Fred were pressing really hard in the centre, and if they do that to us in the first half and press that intensely, they could get, if we're not careful, they could get a couple of goals if we're not really solid and making sure that we're not losing the ball in really good, bad areas and things like that, because they press pretty effectively actually in the first half.
But the thing is, I feel like that's a constant theme with Man United over the last month or so, where they do play really well in the first half, and they are sometimes more times than not the better team in the first half. And then something happens and they completely fall off in that second half. And what do you put that down to?
Maybe it's the fact that Rangnick's way of playing is very, very intense and they can't keep up for 90 minutes. Maybe that's just the case. And if that is the case, but still, you've got to be careful not to let them have too much advantage going into half-time. If they get we go down 2-0, doesn't matter how bad they are in the second half, we're going to have a mountain to climb. That's the reality. Yeah. And they do have good defenders who, if they do sit deep, are able to able to be decent. The problem with Maguire and Lindelof is not when they're defending deep and holding on for a result. It's when they're asked to press intensely and then be defending one-on-one and with the high line. Then they get caught out a lot. So when they're on the front foot, you can definitely catch Man United out. And 100%, if Man United, as much as I'm saying that them pressing and hurting City was impressive and we have to be careful of that, that's definitely going to play into our hands, because they're going to leave. If they do that, if they come at us on Sunday and say we're going to press you, we're going to try and win that game, we saw what we can do to teams much better than Man United. At that, if we can get Son and Kulusevski and Kane in those positions, we were getting them in against City, we could have a field day in that final third, in that space. It's all about making sure we're as sharp and we're playing the football like the patterns of play are as set as they were against City, because clearly we trained at that. We knew how City were going to come at us. We have to make sure that against Man United it's a similar story.
Yeah, and I think that's absolutely spot on. When you're comparing like a Jose Man U team or an Oli Man U team or a Rangnick Man U team, I think out of those three, the team that I would probably fear the most against the Spurs set of attributes is the Jose Mourinho Man U team, and the way they kind of set themselves up and the way that Oli and Rangnick set up the team. I think it can play into our hands in the way we like to play football, and it will leave some space for us around the back. If you bring back up that graphic about the team, when you're looking at the players that Man U could potentially have out, these are all 50-50s, but big players in Varane, Shaw, Ronaldo and Cavani.
Yeah.
How much of a plus would those be for us? That would be massive, wouldn't it?
Massive. I think in terms of Luke Shaw, I actually think Telles has been decent. So I don't think that's a massive difference. But Varane being out, that's ginormous. Just purely because of the pace they won't have in, when they're defending at a high line. Obviously, Ronaldo.
On the Varane thing, do you think if Varane doesn't play, that's going to force them to play a little bit deeper?
It might do. That could definitely be the case. But And that would hurt us if they are forced to play deeper. But then again, if they're forced to play deeper, then that means they're adjusting as opposed to actually playing the way they want to play, and that always helps you because it means you're not quite 100% in the performance a lot of the time. Obviously, Ronaldo being out for me, I think probably benefits us, even though they might. You could argue their pressing might be a bit more intense without him. I just think having Ronaldo, not having Ronaldo is always going to be a benefit.
And I don't think they have moments of brilliance, isn't it?
Yeah, and I don't think they have quite a replacement for him either. Like they played Bruno and up front against City, he was kind of anonymous throughout the whole game. He didn't quite get involved. And I'm sure if you're Dyer, Romero and Davis, you'd much rather face Bruno Fernandes than Ronaldo.
You saw at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium, one ball over the top for Ronaldo, and that's it. It's bang, it's a goal. I mean, that finish was just sublime,
Dynamite.
wasn't it? At the Tottenham, I know Spurs are in a.
It was Kane-esque.
I know Spurs are in a completely different way then to what we are now, but it's those moments of brilliance that you can get caught out from, and we've seen it time and time again coming up against top talents. How just on the flick of a switch, that's it. The game can flip, can't it? When you've got players of that kind of caliber in the opposition team.
Yeah, now he's always capable of something as well, and as much as he might be quiet, and I'm sure he's not going to be hounding Dyer, Davis and Romero all game long, like with pressing, as opposed to someone like Cavani could do. Although Cavani is also going to be out. If you get the ball to him, it's all about those moments where he could make the difference, and there's every chance that he could if he plays. So I'd much rather him not play than him in the team. Although I've got a feeling that if they go with Rashford up top, that would benefit them massively. I feel like they're missing a trick, not going with him.
What do you make out of this whole Rashford situation? I'm hearing murmurs that he wants to leave in the summer and stuff like that. He's not getting a look in at the moment, Marcus Rashford, really.
It's embarrassing for him because he's getting kept outside by Elanga, although Elanga's playing well.
He is playing well, yeah.
But, he's a 19-year-old academy product, and Rashford is a 24-year-old seasoned international, was, star of England and one of the golden boys in the UK due to him taking the fight to the Conservatives and everything. Maybe all that's become too big of a distraction because ever since he got involved, everyone says everyone praised him for that, and fair enough because I think he's done a great thing, feeding the kids and all that kind of stuff. I think that's some unbelievable stuff, but it is the fact of the matter is, ever since he started doing all that extra stuff, his form has dipped. I'm not saying it's not worth doing the extra stuff if you keep up your form. But I'm just saying that's the fact. I haven't seen the same Marcus Rashford for the past 18 months.
Agreed.
I really haven't. He's been all over the place. He hasn't been. His finishing's been way off. He seems anonymous. He doesn't seem to get involved at all.
He's going to do a change of career. He's going to become a politician now.
Yeah, well, maybe he's on the course because at the moment. I think he may. I don't know if it's a distraction.
Good politician at that, by the way.
I'm not saying the distraction's not worth it. Maybe it is, but I'm just saying the fact of the matter is he isn't the same player this season. He's been completely off it. He's playing on the left-hand side. He's playing on the right-hand side. He can't get involved at all. And the fact that the most damning thing is Elanga is keeping him out of the team. Elanga, he should be well ahead of Elanga in the pecking order, and he can't get a look in. And that should be something that Rashford worries about and looks at himself at, not anything else. The fact that he says, I'm looking to leave, I think he's got his priorities in the wrong place. It's a bit like when who was it? Winks. Yeah, when he's when he's not playing and other players are getting ahead of him, he's like, I think I need to leave to get in the England squad. It's like, mate, your priorities in the wrong place. If you want to get in the England squad, you get yourself in the Tottenham team. The only person stopping themselves getting in the Tottenham team is himself because you're not playing well enough. That's the reality. It's not anything to do with anyone else.
Yeah.
And I think Rashford at the moment, if he's looking to leave, again, his priorities in the wrong. If you're getting kept out by Elanga, it's not because Elanga's been that good that he's keeping you out. It's because you've been poor. And when players like Elanga, they could be playing very well, but they're happy to be a sub. Elanga at 19 years old is not going to be throwing a strop if he's on the bench. If you're playing well enough, he's going to be benched however well he's playing. But the fact of the matter is you're not playing well enough to be in the team. That's why he's getting picked ahead of you.
Yeah.
And he's got to look at himself, Rashford, and decide what he's doing at the moment because he's all over the place.
As well, because he's been on the flip side of it. He's been in Elanga's shoes, being a teenager, coming through the ranks at Man United, displacing more senior members of the squad. So he should know exactly what to do to get back into that squad. That's for sure. And
it's not like United even playing that well at the moment, and he still can't get in the team. You know what I mean? He's been kept out of the team for a while. And they're still not even doing that great. But it's not they can't even give him the opportunity. But I do worry though. I've got a feeling they're going to go with him up front on
could be their best option
on Saturday. And I think if they do, I'm worried he might have a performance which could reignite his season. because I think him up front in that system should really work. I don't understand why they haven't done it yet, and I am worried about, and as well him because of his pace. If he can really press us very intensely, and they can get a lot of joy out of that. And you saw early stages against Everton. We are capable of being caught while we're playing it from the back, especially in the early stages. And if we're caught by Rashford and he turns up, then he can be devastating.
Yeah, and it's like it is a bit of a worry coming into this game because Man United, like I said, I think they are quite good in the first halves, and we kind of take our time to grow into games. So we need to make sure for the first 20 minutes, half an hour of this game, we basically don't concede. Because if we do, then we could be on a bit of a hiding this weekend.
We have to make sure as well in the first half, if we are pressed as intensely as United, that we give as good as we get. We have to make sure, look, we might get caught a couple of times and they might get some chances out of it, but we have to make sure that we let them know that, all right, you can catch us, but we're going to exploit all that space that you've got in behind. We are going to find Sonny, we're going to find Kulusevski, we're going to get the wing backs forward. We're not going to be scared about you creating chances from that system because we're going to hurt you just as much. And that will make them rethink in the second half if we do that. If they just press us and pen us in and we don't have anything and we're just backs against the wall like parking the bus, that's why I worry a bit. We have to make sure we're giving as good as we get.
Bring up the one to watch graphic. We've got Bruno Fernandes, obviously, who's come back into form now. 9 goals, 6 assists this year, which is a brilliant return so far. But the player I want to talk about is David De Gea, because De Gea, everyone wrote him off after last season or during last season, and he's come back this season. And in my opinion, the guy has been the best goalkeeper in the league, if not potentially even Europe. I think he's been that good this season.
He's been fantastic. He's definitely back on form. You have to say that. You have to give him credit where credit's due. He's been keeping Man United in games many, many times this season. How many times have Man United been the second best and they've got the odd goal and De Gea has just won the game for them? It's happened countless times. That's probably why they're still in the top 4 race, because of De Gea. And you got to give him credit because he was for 2 years or so on terrible form, and it seemed like I don't know if did he sign a new contract or was he last in his contract? I can't remember what the deal was.
I'm not sure. I'll check it up.
I can't remember because he was gonna. I know there's all that contract talk. I can't remember if he actually if he signed one or whatever it was. But I feel like he
didn't. His contract ends at the end of next season.
So yeah, I think maybe he was just unsettled a bit.
He's got an option for a further year after that.
Maybe he was just unsettled a bit. Maybe he was maybe he was considering his future and that maybe took his eye off the ball for a couple of years. But now he's definitely fully focused again, and he's back on it. He's been brilliant. He's been absolutely brilliant this season, and maybe it was a wake-up call being left out the starting 11 for Spain in the Euros because Unai Simon was starting and playing really well. And there's no reason why he shouldn't be ahead of him. But maybe it was a wake-up call. So he's definitely one who's... He always has a great game against us, doesn't he? I remember that one game at Wembley where he made like 13 saves or something.
Yeah, but I think people made too much out of that game at Wembley because I remember our finishing that day was so bad.
Still made 13 saves.
So bad.
He was a one-man wall against us.
Yeah, but we were so toothless in front of goal that day. We really were. I remember it clearly. Of course we should have won that game, and you got to give credit for making those saves. On paper, it sounds amazing, but when you actually look at the saves he actually made, they're all saves you expected him to make.
I think he made some really good ones in there. He made some really good ones, I remember. Anyway, he usually does have a good game against us.
Yeah,
that's the truth.
It's true.
So yeah, he's definitely one. And when it comes to Bruno, he might benefit without Ronaldo in the team at the moment. I do feel like with him and Ronaldo both in the team together, it's a bit like you've got 2 players who are solely in the team just for output, and then in that sense you're kind of carrying 2 players, and that could be a bit of an issue. If you've just got one of them, then you can kind of make up for it. But when you've got 2 of them just like staying up front and not providing too much from a from an off the ball standpoint. I think that can hinder them for sure going forward. But I think Bruno is definitely coming back into form, and in that pocket, he's got the ability when he's in that pocket to really make a massive difference. Not just shooting, but passing as well. His little link ups, he's got very good vision. So we've got to make sure we're watching him. But if we depends how they play. If they play Pogba and Fred and Fernandes and Fred and McTominay, then it can be difficult to handle. But if we're making sure that if we are going to play Bruno up front, I'm sure Romero can have him for dinner.
Yeah, let's hope so. And when you're looking at the form of the two teams coming into it, they've won 2 out of their last 5. They've only lost 1 home game in the last 5 and only lost 1 away game out of their last 5. But only scored 8 and conceded 7. Us on the flip side, we've won 3 of our last 5, but we've lost 2 of our last 5. It's pure Jekyll and Hyde performances from Spurs. We've lost 2 out of our last 5 away games and lost 2 out of our last 5 home games. I mean, by the form books, it's impossible to call this game. It really is completely impossible. But the way you're looking at it with Spurs, are we on good form now or we are not on good form?
If you look at the league form, I think it's 3 wins out of 4. But if you look at if you take all the cups and everything into account, you can't really say we're on good form. We haven't won consecutive games for 15 games or something. If you're taking into account cup competitions.
Our last 2 league games, we've won 4-0 and 5-0.
Exactly. That's just Tottenham for you. You can't it's hard to understand it, but I think we do come into this, especially with the whole week off, concentrating on this game. I do believe we come into this with belief that we can go there and win, especially how
we played at the Etihad.
Exactly, especially knowing that we went to the Etihad. It wasn't. I know we scored in the last minute, but the performance-wise, it wasn't a lucky win. We went there and we did a job on them, and we tactically and we deserved to get something out of that game, and we'd probably deserved the win in the end, to be honest. And so we can take that into this game, and hopefully we can take that confidence that we know we can hurt Man United. We have the firepower. We look very creative when we're going forward at the moment. Obviously, Matt Doherty's coming into his own. The thing is with Matt Doherty in this game, I do worry about him a bit because I think in the past 2 games he's been brilliant, but I don't think he's had the opposition on his wing that he will have in this kind of game with Sancho or Langa or Rashford. Emerson, yeah, exactly. And Emerson is a lot more of an athlete, and he's a lot more able. Like, for example, if you've got Sancho in a foot race or Rashford in a foot race, I'd much rather have Emerson there than Doherty, just purely because he'll be able to keep up, whereas Doherty might not be able to. However, Doherty is definitely showing his quality in the final third with Emerson, which Emerson has yet to show. And if he does get into good positions, Doherty, I'd much rather have him there than Emerson. I just worry whether he will be able to in this kind of game when he's going to have Telles on that side who likes to go forward and he's got a good cross on him. He's going to have Sancho or Elanga to deal with as well, very pacey, tricky customers. It's going to be a different challenge for him. But if Doherty turns up in this game and is creating the same amount of chances, or even a few chances that he has been in the past few games, I'll be amazed and I'll be very impressed. But I do think, I think, to be honest, I think Emerson's more suited to this game, but I don't think you can drop Doherty. He's just in too good form. I don't think you can. So I think you have to give him the opportunity to prove he can do it in this game. If you're asking me whether I think Doherty can do it in this kind of game when he's got that level of quality ahead of in front of him to deal with, can he deal with that quality and also get forward in the positions we want him to and provide that quality? Do I believe he can do that against a team like Man United? I'm going to say no. That's what I believe. I'm not sure he can. And that's why I'd rather have Emerson there, because at least, even though he might not get forward that well, I know he's probably less of a liability in a foot race against those two, and he might be able to be less of a liability when we're defending. But we have to give Doherty the opportunity to show he can do in this kind of game, and that's why I'd start him.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. When you're looking at the head-to-head between Spurs and Man United, I mean, this is just crazy when you're looking at it. 3 losses, 1 draw, and 1 win out of the last 5 games. And that 1 win did come at Old Trafford in a 6-1 win. I mean, how Spursy is that?
Yeah, of course it is. And then we were all so happy after that. And it was a great performance. Then we never really replicated it. Obviously, Lamela was there back then when they got Martial sent off. A lot has changed since that game at Old Trafford with the 6-1.
And a lot has changed since our last game against them this season, when we lost 3-0. Obviously, it was dubbed the El Sacico with Ole Gunnar Solskjaer and Nuno going head-to-head. They said the loser of that game will lose their job, and that did happen. And then eventually Ole did lose his job in the end as well a few weeks later. And now it's two new managers going head-to-head in Rangnick and and Conte. How do you see the game going?
Yeah, it's funny. Some saying we're looking to do the double over Man United this season.
We are.
With a win.
We are,
because we definitely won that game back in when was it? November, October.
Yeah.
Look, I think if we played the same 11 as we did against Everton, I really think we have a good shout of a victory.
Well, with Reguilon in, yeah.
With Reguilon, sorry. I really believe we have a very good shout of victory. I really believe they actually play into our hands the way they play Man United. I am a bit worried about maybe we'll get caught out a bit too many times, and maybe they could get a goal or two in the first half. I am a bit worried about that. But if we don't do that, if we make sure that we're not giving them good quality chances and we're holding strong, I think there's chances for us. Definitely chances for us. Maguire and Lindelof playing a high line, there's chances all day long for Son to run in behind and for Kane to be spraying balls, and also for Kulusevski. I don't think Telles is the best defensive left back. I think he's very good going forward. I don't think defensively he's that strong. So I think Kulu can definitely do something on the right side. There's chances for us, but they have quality. And if they turn up, and if Pogba decides to run the game, if he turns up in this game, there's something for example, Pogba is so inconsistent, but if he turns up, there's only so much we can do. He's that good.
And we've been on the other end of the Pogba wrath as well before. In that FA Cup game, the semi-final, he comes on, doesn't he? Completely flips the game on a switch. I mean, it's happened so many times when Pogba's on terrible form and then he comes into the game and then literally just runs the game and scores a worldie or something else. And there's a mad assist or something.
And there'll be a lot of question marks, obviously, after there's a lot of things said after the 4-1 defeat against City about their players' efforts and City having 92% possession and stuff like that. So because of all those questions, there's going to have to be a reaction response, and I expect them to come flying out the traps early doors. And it's about us riding at this, and there will be a storm that we're going to have to ride out, I think, early doors. And it's about riding that storm when we do. And it's a bit like against Everton. When we ride out the storm, they're going to be pressing high. They're going to be looking to exploit us. But if we stay calm, stay compact, stay strong, there's going to be moments where we're going to be able to play through them. And then with all that space left behind them, we have the players to exploit them. So I do think the tactics are there for us to win, but it's all about whether we can implement them. And it's all about also, I'm just a bit worried because I think Dockley's going to start. I'm a bit worried about that side of the pitch, about him being exploited because of his lack of pace. But if he doesn't and he's still able to get in those attacking positions, 100% we can hurt them. But I do. Part of me just thinks it's going to be a draw.
In terms of the top four, right? If we lose this game, how detrimental is that in terms of the top four race?
Extremely, because it depends. If Arsenal don't win, then we get away with it a bit. But if we lose and Arsenal win, then all of a sudden it's a mountain to climb, because then there'll be 6 points ahead and a game in hand. 3 points ahead and a game in hand, considering the game in hand is Liverpool. You can just about say that.
We got to play them as well.
And we got to play them. So you can say we're definitely still in it, for sure. But 6 points in a game in hand, that's like a mountain. That's all of a sudden a lot to climb.
When you look at it, 6 points in a game in hand, that's the Liverpool game. And if we play them, then it goes back down to 3.
Yeah.
So, I mean, there's definitely...
So I think it's more...
chances.
There is, but I think it's just more psychological how it looks. Because if we're chasing them down if we're chasing them down with only 3 points behind, and I think even at that point, when you're 3 points behind, you can even forget about the game in hand, because it doesn't really matter. That doesn't really matter. You're just 3 points. It's just one game. Or after one game, you could be ahead of them. But I think psychologically, I think it's very similar when we played like Leicester when we were going for the league. It was like when we were really close to them, we could it gave us a lot more motivation to chase them down. Once they got like 9 points ahead, all of a sudden near the end of the season we just lost our way.
Yeah, that was a bit later on in the season with less games to go.
I'm just saying, I think psychologically we need that we need to be within one game of them for me to keep up that motivation to fight for everything every game. I think once, I'm not saying we're going to give up. I'm just saying psychologically it's a big blow to be 6 points behind with a game in hand rather than 3. I think it's a big psychological difference.
Interesting. I don't think it's as big as you're saying, but I do think there is definitely something in that. But if we do win this weekend,
yeah, it's massive.
It's massive, isn't it? Because if we win this weekend, do we become favourites for the top 4?
No, I don't think we become favourites because I think Arsenal are playing very well at the moment. So you need Arsenal to show signs of slowing down before you can say we become favourites. Because at the moment they're playing great. 4 wins on the trot. I think they're playing really good football. And I'm not saying that things can't fall apart, because I think a few injuries, a few bad results, and you might see a very young Arsenal team all of a sudden start feeling the pressure. Because at the moment they're playing with no pressure.
Yeah.
And once they start feeling the pressure, then we'll see the real Arsenal. So I would say at the moment, even if we win on the weekend, we're not favourites. But if Arsenal get 1 or 2 bad results, if they don't beat Leicester on Sunday and we win the weekend, then I think all of a sudden you're saying, okay, maybe we are favourites.
Yeah, I mean, this Arsenal team do remind me of that kind of young Spurs team right at the beginning under Pochettino, which is worrying to me, to be honest, because they've got a lot of young, hungry players. But I do kind of feel like they will still go through a slump from now to the end of the season.
They haven't been playing with any pressure.
Yeah.
1 game a week, pretty much. Out of all the cups, they've pretty much given up all the cups. They weren't in Europe at all, so they haven't been playing with any pressure at the moment. So it's a bit like Tottenham when we were playing with no pressure. We were great, and then all of a sudden when the pressure started to hit and we actually were challenging for serious things, then we started to falter a bit. And we'll see what Arsenal do once the pressure hits.
Yeah. Who do you reckon are playing with the most pressure right now in the top 4 race? It's Man United, surely.
Man United, yeah. Man United,
then
us, probably.
Then us, then Arsenal. I think that the more Arsenal win, the more pressure gets on their shoulders, to be honest, because the more people talk about them as favourites and then all this kind of stuff. But as it stands right now, there is pressure mounting on Arsenal because people are talking about them as the favourites for the top 4 race.
Exactly.
Now.
So the pressure mounting on them, but whether they deal with it.
That could play into our hands. But look, all said and done, what's your score prediction for tomorrow?
You just got to remember, it's not just about Arsenal, though. We have to take on Man United as well in the top 4 race. So if we can beat them, we go above them with 2 games in hand. And that's that's psychologically quite big. So I'm going to go with 1-1. No, you know what? 2-2. I'm going to go with 2-2. I think there's chances for us, but whether we survive the storm and the pressing that United are going to bring us, I got a feeling they might get a bit of joy. And that's what I'm worried about. So I think they might get a few moments where they're catching us, but I think we're gonna catch them as well. So I'm going with 2-2.
Interesting. I'm going to go 2-1 Spurs. I'm going to go for a Spurs victory. I'm trying to stay positive and confident for the game this weekend, which usually backfires on me, to be fair. But I'm going to go 2-1. I think Man United will play a bit into our hands this weekend, leaving space in behind. I got a feeling that Man U might take an early lead in the first 20 minutes, half an hour. But I think Spurs can make that up in the second half with the talent that we have going forward and how we can attack them in their frail areas. So I'm going 2-1 to Spurs. My brother is going 2-2. I want to know you guys' score prediction in the comment section below. Massive game this weekend. The watch long tomorrow has got Stelios and Iggy on it. We've got a Tottenham away takeover. Me and Simon will be up at Old Trafford in Manchester. So looking forward to that. So we'll see you all then.